Good evening, everyone. We're at 6:30, and I'd just like to let you know that this session will be recorded, so you'll have a good audio-visual of this session if you need it. And maybe what I'll start by is just introducing myself quickly to you. My name is Gord Reuter. I would have met you at some point during the selection process. I'm the current coordinator of the prosthetics orthotics programs and one of the full-time faculty members here. So you'll be seeing a lot of me in first year, specifically with anatomy, biomechanics, math, and some of the lab projects that you're going to be doing. And other faculty that are here right now is Amy Richardson and Dan Blocka, and then I think I saw Kyla has logged in as well, but there's so many people here that what I'll do is I'll just give the microphone up and let faculty just quickly introduce themselves to you as we're waiting for people to log in, and then we can get started with the actual presentation. Okay?
Hi guys, congratulations on getting into technical, and hope you're enjoying your summer and getting excited for the fall, but enjoying your summer first. This is Amy speaking, I guess, in case you guys didn't know. I will see you guys a little bit in a formal setting, not until the spring, where I'll do a little bit of prosthetic pathology and transfield biomechanics with you. I formally spend more of my time with the clinical students teaching lower extremity prosthetics as well as the lab, but you guys will see me around a fair bit in the lab with them, and I'm happy to help out and answer any questions if you see me. And I sort of share and live in an office with Dan in the main office, and then I guess a little bit of background about myself as well. I'm a certified prosthetist. Full-time with the college, but when I'm not at the college, I'm also still practicing clinically, and I used to be at Sunnybrook, and I'm now practicing at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehab.
Thanks, Amy. Kyla, do you want to grab the mic?
Hi, everyone. This is Kyla, and I am a faculty member. I actually teach the prosthetic side of things in fab theory as well as in the lab. So you'll be spending a lot of time with me, and I will be getting to know you. I'm very excited about the new year, so I hope you are too. If any time you have any questions between now and then, my email address is right beside my name. And a little bit about me, I work at Ottobock in Burlington. I'm a registered technician in prosthetics. I've been teaching for quite a few years now, so yeah, I'm happy to meet you guys in September.
Okay, I think a lot of you have met me through the selection process. My name is Dan Blocka. I was the previous coordinator to Gord. Came on faculty in '86 and became coordinator in '91, and still hanging around and down in our office with, I'm in an office I share with Amy, and I don't have any of you until second year. You'll see me around, but I won't have any classes with you in the first year, but should be still around when you're in second year to some degree where I should interact with you at a greater rate. So, and congratulations to all of you for getting in the program, and it was fun going through the process with you through emails and so on. Gord, I'll hand it to you.
Thanks a lot, Dan. If you want to, you can move on to the first slide and of the PowerPoint, and we can get this show on the road. I'm quite impressed. There's a large turnout from everyone that said they were going to attend, so this is great. I hope not to take too much of your evening, but I would like to get through some of the information and have an opportunity to go over some of the questions that you guys have been posted on that online survey that I sent out to you guys, so that you're more at ease and comfortable and know what's coming down the pipe. So the agenda is basically we've gone through our introductions, and every year we have to spend less and less time going through Google Apps as students become more familiar with this application. But I do want to kind of have Dan point out some of the more critical parts that are maybe unique or different to the platform and how we use it within the gbcpndo.com platform. And then just a quick overview of where we fit within the college of the profession. Jonathan Lau, our Student Success Specialist, isn't able to join us, but I have some information that he wanted me to share with you. Then go through the PPE, the tool list, elective issues, and how to get out of electives if you think you can, about leasing and renting, ID badges and parking, and everything. We'll finish up with our next orientation, which is a face-to-face meeting at Sunnybrook. That'll be on Tuesday, September the 4th. So we have a really late Labor Day, so it kind of changes the dates up a little bit. Okay, and if you have any questions, if there's anything that we're talking about that you need us to maybe explain better or you want to add more detail on, then there's a number of ways you can let us know. The easiest one is to click on the hand icon, which will show up underneath your name on the left-hand top side of the window, or you can directly type it into there. That's an example. That pinging sound will alert me that someone wants to ask a question. So if you can do that, that's the easiest way to get a hold of us. And the other is to just type it into the chat box. And I'll do my best between Dan, Amy, and myself to keep an eye on those questions so that as you type them in, we can try and respond to them. Okay, so if there's no other questions, we can move on. And I'll have Dan take this over, but it's, again, I'm really impressed. Like a large percentage of you have already logged on to your gbcpndo.com account, so that's a good sign. Okay, so Dan, I'll let you chat for the next little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it's important that you all log on. I think I've sent emails to all of you with log-on specs in terms of username, password, and if any of you have problems with that, let me know as soon as possible. We can always arrange a session online to go through things. I may, if there's enough people that are interested and are having issues with things, I can pull together a group session like this just with those who need some help negotiating Google Apps. Overall, the Google Apps system isn't anything that is that foreign to most of you. A lot of you have Gmail-based accounts, and it's structured very much the same way in terms of how you negotiate from your email account to the other functions that we use, and I'll go through those quickly. I won't spend a lot of details this evening because of time, but I can always come back to things. You can come back to a recording that Gord will send you a link to the recording of this session, and you can go through things. But you can always contact me directly with issues around Google Apps. I think the main. Let me just look at this slide here to make sure. I think the main thing that is important, as I said, logging on and understanding that all our communications are going to go through this hub. So you need to be able to be using your first name dot last name at gbcpndo.com address. You have a group address for first year your class, which is firstyear.technical@gbcpndo.com, and you send an email out with that address. It goes to everyone in the class. And the two main things that you need to know following this session is the importance of going to the calendar and understanding how Drive works, Google Drive, because all the documents shared with you in classes, from course outlines to PDF files to presentation files and so on, all go through that Google Drive. We don't hand out a lot of printed materials. A lot of you are given this link to log in on. A lot of times now, these days, it doesn't go to this screen anymore, but goes to the typical Google login screen, which looks a lot like this. And a lot of you who have, and in this case, you can see myself, have have other Gmail-based accounts or Google Apps-based accounts, that those addresses could show up too. So when you log into one, you can also log into the others. The biggest confusion I sort of have seen over the years is when people have multiple accounts, sometimes they get them cross-linked, and they may be looking at Drive and they're not actually in the gbcpndo.com Drive or Calendar, they're in actually their own Gmail-based function. So sometimes these things get messed up, and the best thing to do is always log out of everything and log back in and know where you are. A lot of students will tend to use one browser for one account, so they don't go into multiple accounts, with one browser. And the login is usually, looking something like this. You first go in and you add your account, which is your full gbcpndo.com address, not just your username and password, and then that should get you to this screen, which most of you should have seen now, okay? And that allows you then to negotiate between Mail, Drive, Calendar, and the other apps that Google has in our Google Apps system. Okay, I'm just pausing for a second just to let the system catch up. If you hear my voice going awfully quick, it's usually because there's a lag in the system. Okay, and when you're in here, you can always click in any of the main apps. You can always click this box, which gives you the main apps within our system. And again, the main ones are Mail, Calendar, and Drive, and we use Sites in some of our classes also. You can move these icons around as you wish. They've changed things so you can actually organize these apps the way you want. I'll talk a bit how Docs, Sheets, and Slides sort of integrate into Drive a bit later. Okay, so logging on, you see the screen, then you can bounce between Mail, Calendar, and Drive just by using this menu at any of the screens that you're in. Mail itself is your basic Gmail screen, so I'm not going to go into any details here. It's structured like this. You do have an internal chat function. A lot of students in the classes over the years since we implemented Google Apps they like to use the chat function that pops up within Mail. You can always click one of your classmates and chat with them, and they also have the audio and video feature if you want to talk audio-video using the internal Google system. They call it Hangouts. So it's also a function built into Google Apps in terms of audio-video chats. But a lot of it is built right into something like you can see here in Mail, and I'm sure some of you use this function who've had Gmail accounts over the years. This is just another picture of a chat, and again, you can always click the camera icon if you want to go to audio-video. One of the main things that I wanted to mention is if you're in your Mail screen, you can't see it here, but here, this gear, if you click here, a drop-down menu will take you to a number of options. One will be Settings, and Settings is the place where if you wanted to forward your gbcpndo.com mail to another address, or set up a mail program so you get your gbcpndo.com mail in Outlook Express or Mac Mail or something like that, you have to go into Settings. Sorry, I just bounced around there. You have to go into Settings within your Mail app to do these things. Now, if you need help in this area, I can help you with doing those kinds of things. Some of it is technical. A lot of you, I'm sure, have done it on your own over the years, but some of these kinds of things people need help with. So if that's the case, let me know. I've already showed this screen. Actually, it's just showing you again going to the other apps from any screen that you're in Google Apps. Calendar is the next thing I wanted to talk about. All of you should see if you click here and go to Calendar, click there, and then you'll get this window pop up as another window or a tab. And all of you have to see these two calendars. Okay? and that gives you your weekly schedule. The GBC dates is a general schedule. The first year technical is all your classes. You'll see it organized in all your accounts under other calendars, okay? So you've got to see these two, first year technical, GBC dates. I've shared those calendars with all of you. Sometimes it doesn't work, so you're going to let me know if you can't see any of those calendars when you go to the calendar function. And you can view the calendar by day, week, or month. What's important is when you have these classes through the week is that you check out the event itself, because in the event will be details about where the class is and any details around the details of the class itself. I think the next slide shows you here. This is your orientation at the start of September this year, on September the 1st, and Gord has put some boxes around here just to show you where you can locate. I mean, the orientation will take place in UG76, and here's a description of some of the stuff that's going on. So that happens with all the classes that we have. The calendars are pretty much up to date, but some of the fall semester classes, some of the information may be still out of date and still being updated, so be patient with that. Google Drive. So if you click again, we go back to this slide. You click here for apps and you click Drive. That will take you to a window looking like this. And this is where all your shared documents will be. Gord will share this presentation file with you after the orientation, and any other documents that he's starting to share. But all your instructors will share documents through Drive, and it's in your best interest to really organize your folders and subfolders so you can get to things quickly and easily. As the year goes on, the amount of documents shared with you gets bigger and bigger, so it's important to organize it just like you would your own hard drive on your own computer. I'll just pause for a sec. Gord, did you want to, you put this slide up with a snapshot of Google Drive. Did you want to refer to this in any way?
No, but there were some questions from the students about what a regular week would look like. So if you wanted to just go up to that calendar that showed the month, that would probably be sufficient. And I won't take too long, but just to kind of give you a view, like this, the one before, yeah, kind of gives you an outline of where your activity is going to be the greatest. So you can see after the first week, your Wednesdays are free. There's no classes or courses that are taking place on Wednesdays, and the only course that takes place on the Monday is the English course. So if you can get exempt from that, that means that 2 days of the week are free for you to work part-time jobs or work on your schoolwork or whatever. But that does mean that your Tuesdays, your Thursdays, and your Fridays are full-on days. Tuesdays will be all in the lecture room, and Thursday, Fridays is where your Fab Theory is a 2-hour lecture that takes place first thing in the morning of either the Thursday or the Friday, and then the rest of the time you are spending in the lab. So once you log on to your Google Apps and check out the calendar, you can kind of look to see exactly when your tests are, what you're responsible to read for in the event details and preparation for a lecture. And I'll go over this again, but just a few of you are asking about what a regular week would look like, so I just thought I would jump in quickly to talk about that. Okay, and once you're finished, Dan, Kevin's joined us, so after you finish with the Google Apps, then I'll let Kevin Fraser introduce himself to the students. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yep, okay. The next part I wanted to talk about were these apps. Docs, which are documents, text documents like a Microsoft Word. Sheets, like Excel spreadsheets, are similar. And slides is a presentation, like a PowerPoint kind of function. All these apps organize separately document sheets and slides in their own way, but they're all contained within Drive. Okay, if I confuse you, I can come back to this, but they just changed this in the last year where they pulled out the functions separately, and I'll just show you quickly how. So if you're in a document, let's say Gord shared this with you, and you click this top left icon here, it takes you actually to documents, which looks like this, okay? So the docs is just a listing of all your docs, text docs, which you can organize in your own way outside of Drive. If you click this icon, you'll get this, which then allows you to move to Drive if you wish to see all your documents, which include sheets, slides, and other documents shared with you or that you've created. Okay, so there are these separate functions that allow you to see these certain kinds of file types within these umbrellas, but they're all contained within Drive anyways. Okay, Gord mentioned in our other early orientation that one thing it does allow you to do if you just want to peruse just documents, it's a quick way to look at things that you probably just looked at in terms of documents, and it would be the same if you went to slides or sheets. Okay? So I hope it didn't confuse you, but one of the best ways to learn about these things is just bounce around these apps. And there's always some good help menus with Google Apps, and the Google provides some help functions within all of this. So, and again, I'm here to help you where I can around a lot of this if you need it. The last thing I wanted to talk about, the last two things, one thing as you get up to speed with these things and you start doing things, let's say in classes and generating different files, and you may have some working groups together or groups that you're working on projects together, there's some really neat sharing functions within Google Apps that allow you to open a document together and share and chat about, let's say in this case, a presentation file where you actually can talk to one another as you're doing it together. So the collaboration side of this is really a cool thing that a lot of the students over the past years keep increasingly using more and more. The last thing I wanted to talk about was sites in terms of Google Apps. This is something for some of your classes you may be making a website as part of a project. If you go to the Sites function, if you go to that box icon here and go to Sites, for a lot of you there won't be anything in My Sites for you. But if you click Browse Sites, you'll come to this, and you can go and browse around the different sites that we've created, students have created, that have been created in different projects and different courses, and you're free to look at those things. Gord is actually going to refer to specific sites, insights that I think you'll need to look at around tool lists and tools to safety and issues like that, but he'll come back to that. Okay, the last thing, it's not Google Apps, but this has to do with something else that we want you to be aware of. I'm sorry for all this IT stuff, but again, you can always come back to it via the recording. You all have been assigned also by George Brown College an @georgebrown.ca address that we need you to access on a regular basis, or have that mail forwarded to your gbcpndo.com address. Your StuView username password should get you in. Here's the URL or the web address to go to get to this function, and it's the college email. And you log in with your username and password, and it should take you to a screen that looks like this. Now, what I'm going to do before the night is out is put together a short YouTube video that I'll post up that shows you how to forward this mail to other mail accounts you may have. Okay, a lot of the students will forward it to their @gbcpndo.com address, so it's all consolidated in one spot. What I'll get you to do is, once you're in here, is go to Options. And again, I'll show this on the video, and when you're in Options, you have to create this rule that forwards your @georgebrown.ca email to a specific address. Okay, Gord may come back to this again on why this is important. The main reason is the college communicates with you through this address around things like payment of fees, registration, etc., etc., and most importantly, at the end of the fall semester before the winter semester, there's a lot of things that come through this address that you need access to before the second year also. So it's important to have access to this, and I would suggest forwarding this email so you can, it's visible to you on a continuum. Okay, I'll let Gord come back to that when I'm done. Actually, I am done. Before we, Gord, did you want to speak to this point now, or you want to do it later, and then we'll hand it over to Kevin?
The only thing I wanted to stress is that it's important to check this email account at the beginning, at the end of every term, because you need to register yourself even after the fall term and going into the winter term. And George Brown College doesn't recognize the gbcpno.com Google platform that we've created. It's exclusive for P&O students at the Centerbrook campus. So college will only talk to you through that georgebrown.ca email address. So it's important that if you don't forward that to your other email accounts, that you actually log in and check that, like I said, beginning and the end of the term, because it's usually dealing with admission type or graduation type issues. Okay, that was it. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, Kevin Fraser, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Let me know if you can't hear me with the text message there. But sorry for being a little late joining the meeting here. But I just wanted to give a quick introduction for those of you who I haven't had the chance to meet yet. My name is Kevin Fraser. I'm one of the instructors in the program. I will be teaching the fabrication theory and laboratory procedures on the orthotic side of things. So I just look forward to meeting you all again later on in the summer and early in this fall. If you have any questions specific to those courses, you can email me at my GBC P&O address. It's kevin.fraser. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kevin. Both Kyla and Kevin have been teaching fab theory and lab procedures for a number of years now, and I really want to kind of take this opportunity to stress just how lucky you guys are as students to have the faculty that we have, because these are all past alumni of the technical or clinical programs. They're leaders in their field, and they care a lot about what they do, so much so that they want to share that with you guys and try and teach you that same skill and passion. And we're pretty fortunate in that sense, in terms of how strong our faculty is and how committed they are to the technical profession. And it gets me excited about being a part of the process, for sure. So what I wanted to do now is just give you an idea of how big the college is, and I guess how unique and small our little program is within it. So I guess the president of the college, Ann Sado, she's a very strong leader for us, and she's come to our aid a number of times, and she has been known to show up for our grand round presentations. But the next, biggest person will be Dr. Corey Ross, and then underneath him would be Steve Sirk. He's the chair that takes care of health sciences, which is a program, or sorry, the department within which our programs are located. So you can see that, at a glance, that it takes a while to get down to the P&O technical and clinical programs, but we're there, and we're pretty important. Looking at a professional landscape, the biggest provincial and national and international bodies that you should be aware of are OPC Canada, which takes care of primarily certification, accreditation of our schools, ethics, and continuing education. And once you graduate from the technical program, should you want to become a registered technician, it's through OPC that you would have to apply to do your internship. OAPO is our provincial association, Ontario Association of Prosthetists and Orthotists, and being a student member gets you access to our annual meetings and any workshops or symposia that they might be hosting. And ISBO Canada is the Canadian chapter of the International Society, and that's a great source of networking collaboration at a global level. For example, there's a symposium that's being held in Toronto this coming October. Unfortunately, you won't be available for the Friday, but you could attend the Saturday session at the prices for the 1 day is a bit less than for the 2 days. So I'll have information on that if you're interested. But I wanted to just move on to faculty, and I'll kind of point out who has already been here and introduced themselves to you. So you've got myself and Amy as the full-time faculty, and for whatever reason I lost Dan off this list, but he certainly should be up there as well. And then the part-time faculty that will be working with you directly would be Kyla and Kevin, both of which have dropped in and introduced themselves to you. Dave Ritchie, he was actually working in the lab today trying to get the stock organized and the lab room ready for you guys coming back in September, but he wasn't able to join us, but I know he will be joining us for the next orientation that we will do just before Labor Day. And then the rest are your second year faculty that you won't have direct contact with next year, but you'll probably meet them on the Tuesdays when you're in class. The next slide just reminds you where Sunnybrook is. You all successfully were able to get to the interview process, so I don't know that I need to go over this in any greater detail. But I will you don't need to go back to that slide, Dan, it's fine. I just wanted to kind of mention, I know I'd said it a couple times, is when you're looking for accommodations, don't look at Waterfront or St. James or Casa Loma campus. You want to find a place that's close to Sunnybrook. Okay, thank you. The next slide is the first thing up there is the student information, and I don't need to go to this link, but anything that's yellow and underlined is a link. So I have sent out that form to you maybe an hour or so before this session, and it's just important that you complete that form. It gives me the ability to get a hold of you in an emergency. For example, if we had to close the school due to we had to do it for SARS. The only other time it's happened is due to bad weather, winter storms. So that way I can save you the trouble of having to come in. And then the other is in the event that you're hurt in the lab, that I have a family member that I can contact. And the rest of these slides or links, I may go to them if we have time at the end of the session, but just take the time to look at these things. A lot of you are asking about tools and where to go to, and that one maybe, Dan, would be worth jumping to if you have that window open. Thank you. So once you have logged on to your gbcpindo.com account, you'll be able to access all of these sites and web pages, and this gives you a really good breakdown of, among other things, the tools that you need to get in preparation for your first year at the technical program. It gives you a little visual, an idea of what a reasonable cost would be to buy a half-decent quality tool, and why we're using it, and where it's important to spend a little bit more money. And I have some more details on tools and special orders, but we'll save that as we get to the end of the presentation. So thank you. And again, I'm not seeing any hands go up or any comments in the chat box, so I'm assuming that you guys are following along nicely. And just know that if you have a question, just put your hand up. Toolkits is something that our graduating second year class put together, and it may not mean a lot to you right now, but when you get into the school environment, you'll see that the lab where your tools are is quite a distance from where you might be doing your plastic molding or your lamination or your sewing. So it makes sense to kind of have a kit ready in terms of what you want to bring with you when you go to these rooms. So this site is going to give you a nice visual breakdown of the bare minimum tools you want to be carrying with you when you know you're going to be molding or laminating. We'll also have this laminated and printed in the lab so that it'll help you get more time efficient. Okay, and I think that's it for links that I really wanted to kind of put in front of you. Yeah, the rest we can go through at another time. Okay, I sent out, I think I did, yeah, I'm pretty sure I sent this out to you guys as a shared folder with the order form and the catalog. And I just want to preface by saying that these are not mandatory for you to purchase through Weaver Safety. I really don't care where you get your PPE from. It's just a service that I've provided over the years because Paula does a pretty competitive job at getting these items to you at a pretty low cost. I can't really compete. There's some items that I order that I stopped carrying because she gets them at a much cheaper rate. So I encourage you to look at the catalog that she has, and if you can find it cheaper somewhere else, then put it on the firstyear.technical group email, and everyone can save a few cents. But one thing that she can provide that a lot of home hardware type stores can't is a mask certification fit test. And that's something that you'll need for sure in second year when you try to do your work terms. That's part of the requirements. So that's one handy. It's easy to buy a mask, but to get a certificate to say that it fits you properly is not usually as easy to get. So just take that into consideration, and if this is something that you would like to take advantage of, then complete the order form and make sure you email that to or fax it to Paula Cabral before August the 28th. If you send something in after that, she'll have to charge you shipping, and it'll take you a bit longer. And the PPE equipment is something that you really need to have as of the first week of class. We get into the lab on that Thursday, so I want people to be able to participate with what we're doing, and you only can do that if you have your proper equipment. Okay, the dates when she'll be coming to Sunnybrook, which is another advantage of ordering through her, is your first week of classes on that Tuesday. There's no classes for you on that day. There's a lot of orientation that's taking place that doesn't involve you, but if you do want to pick up your tools with her, you can do that on the September the 8th between 1 and 4 p.m. And then the following week, the 15th, I have another time slot where she's agreed to come back in case you can't make the 8th. But it's imperative that you have payment in full at the time of the pickup. It has to be cash or credit card. And the mask fit test is something that she does specially on her own, and that's $25 cash only. Okay? I don't know that there's any questions. There is a question that Steph and John have posted about sharing tools, and I've answered that. It's something you submitted online, so I have that already queued up to answer. So I can get to that later if that's all right. I think we can move on to the next slide unless there's any questions about the specialty tools. So this is usually an area of a lot of frustration for students that think they can get out of the college English course or are surprised why they've been put into COM 1003. So I just want to spend a couple minutes talking about this slide. So Alexander, or Trish, is in charge of your coordinating of the COM 1007 course. She doesn't teach it, and neither does Martha, her assistant, but they are in charge of all the liberal arts courses. And what I've been able to do for the last few years anyway is have one of the GBC faculty actually come up to Sunnybrook and teach that English course at Sunnybrook campus in UG76. And so you'll see that in the calendar. The instructor may change this year, but I'm hoping to be able to negotiate for them to come directly to Sunnybrook so that you don't have to take any courses at the waterfront campus. But if you think you are entitled to be exempt from it, it is critical that you have all your pieces of paper in order. So you need to complete the exemption form, and that requires, among other things, for it to be complete, and a course outline from when you took the course, and a transcript showing what your grades were. And that course has to be taken within the last 5 years. If it's more than that, you're going to have to retake the course or do what's called a PLA, or a prior learning assessment, which you need to pay for. And I can't remember what the cost is, but it's up there. I think around $70. And you have to complete the test, and then if you pass that test with a high enough score, then you would be exempt from taking that English class. The next slide has a bit more information dealing with the COM 1007. And again, I really implore you to follow through with this stuff, because if you let it slide, you could be automatically dumped into the COM 1003 level English, which is a major hassle because it's not taught at Sunnybrook campus, and it's usually taught at a time when you're in class with me or in the lab, and it's done at Waterfront campus. So there's really no reason why any of you should be put into the COM 1003 level if you have any kind of university level English or college English that would be equivalent. So please stay on top of this. And the next slide gives you a bit more information in terms of the English placement test. Yeah, sorry, just back one. Thank you. So I know when I saw you guys for the interview process, there was very few of you that were not in the select status. So I don't think this is going to apply to very many, if any of you. But if you did not submit a transcript, or if OCAS didn't forward it to the college, then they have no idea of what your English background is, and they will be requesting for you to take an English placement test. So this here details some information in terms of how to arrange for that and how to negotiate your way out of it if you don't think you need to take that test. Okay? But Martha's very quick at replying to emails, even though the college is technically on holiday at this part of the term. She's very quick at responding. So as long as you're polite and you're organized and you include your student ID with in your communication, you'll probably get fairly quick replies. Okay, next slide, please. The other courses that you need to take that are outside of direct P&O are your electives. And in the fall term, you only need to take one elective, and in the winter term of first year, you'll be taking 2 of them. And this is, again, anyone that has any college or university experience, which is the majority of you, should probably be able to get exempted from these courses. And you can submit your exemption, anytime you'd like to, but they do not process them immediately. So you may be waiting until the beginning of September before they get back to you. And in the event that you're slow in trying to submit your exemptions, you have the first 10 days of the semester to still get those applications in. The one piece of advice I would give you, if you're not 100% sure that you'll be able to get out of a class, I would enroll in one now. Registration opens up on July the 20th, and pick something that at least would be interesting to you, because if you wait until the beginning of September to find out that you have to enroll in an elective course, all the good ones will be gone, and you'll be taking some fairly obscure liberal arts course that will have no interest to you at all, but you'll have to do. So that's my little piece of advice. Next slide, please. Yeah, I mentioned that you can do your registration of your courses as of July the 20th. You don't need to go in person to the college to do that. That's all done online through your StudView account. And as I mentioned, you just need to select one general ed course from all those that are offered for this term, and 2 for the winter term. And these, if you're not aware, are all online. They don't require you to go to Waterfront to take these classes. So again, it just stresses the importance for finding a place close to Sunnybrook. Okay, I just want to make sure that that was clear. If there's any questions, I'll give people a chance to put their hand up or type something in the chat room. And the last slide here just again gives you more information about how to get out of these courses. Steve was good enough to get back to me, and he's able to accept your exemptions online. So if that's how you'd like to do this, then you can communicate with him directly, And again, I try and do that sooner than later. Okay, no questions, so that's great. It means you're either all asleep or this is all making sense to you. I got a hand going up, so I'll stop talking and I'll let Amelia take the mic. If the mic isn't working for you, Amelia, then just chat or type something in the chat box and I'll make sure to try and answer your question. Okay, so I think you decided to type it in there. So yeah, if you log on to your gbcpndo.com account and then look at your calendar, you can see exactly what you're going to be doing between now and the end of the year. So you'll know when the term ends, if you need to book flights to get home, you know when you have to come back. I try to be we all try to be as up to date as possible with that calendar. There's some times where schedules or classes will have to be moved if some of us are attending a conference or have other responsibilities. But by and large, your schedule is set. And your online classes, you're right, you can do them at your own discretion. Okay, so if that was good enough to answer your question, I will continue with Sunnybrook Photo ID. So I need to point out that you will be getting a GBC ID card and an ID number, but when you're in the hospital, you need to have your Sunnybrook Photo ID in view at all times, and that requires you going to the Sunnybrook Photo ID rooms, and I've given you her email and her phone number. The lady's name is Angela, and she's very quick at processing a lot of students in the beginning of the school year. And the reason why I bring this up now is some of you are already asking me questions about parking. You're planning on driving to Sunnybrook. Well, before you can get a parking permit, you need to have a Sunnybrook Photo ID. So I have sent security the class list of all new students, so they're aware of who you are. If you wanted to go by, before September and already get this done, you'll be able to. We cover your cost of the Sunnybrook Photo ID card. If you lose it, I think it's a $25 replacement fee, but I obviously don't cover your parking costs. But once you get your Sunnybrook ID, you need to have that to go to parking, and then you'll be able to get access to the parking that's available. And someone had asked about student rates of parking, and no, there's some packages that you can do, but Sunnybrook is probably it's the #1 worst place for parking and infractions. So you'll have to pay quite a bit or get lots of tickets if you plan on driving to Sunnybrook and parking from around that area. I just saw someone posting a police background check, and you don't need to get that in your first year, but it is part of what you need to get in preparation for your second year field placements. But I'll talk about that a little bit further down the road. Okay, so I mentioned Jonathan Lau is our student success specialist, and his email and our office and extension is here. And he usually comes by once or twice in the beginning of the term to kind of introduce himself and go over all the things that he can get access to you. But basically, it's because of his department that we have peer leaders in the lab and peer leaders that will be available to you to help you with some of the courses that students typically struggle with, which is the biomechanics, the math, and the anatomy. And I'll talk more about that when I see you guys in September. So this lists all the things that he can get you access to in terms of peer leader academic support and advising, and at either the academic or personal level, if this is something that you think you need access to. And if you have a learning disability or a physical disability that hasn't been documented, then it's Jonathan that you're going to need to contact in order to be able to take advantage of any of those accommodations. Until that's been recognized and processed by the college, there's not much that we can do at the program level. Okay, next slide. And so back to the police check. These are referred to within the college as the paramed forms, and I don't require you to do them in first year because you're staying away from patients for the most part. But in second year, when you're on field placements or you're doing some of our senior level projects, you'll be working with clinical students and actual patients, then this form makes a lot more sense, and it's something that you need to complete in order to go on your work terms or your field placements. And it's not a bad idea to get this stuff updated. If you want to volunteer or if you want to work in a public hospital, you're going to need to do it anyway. But yeah, I don't know that it's worth the effort of doing this just for first year, and I don't ask you to do that, but you will for second. Okay, next slide. So what I have kind of dedicated the next little session or portion of the presentation to is to questions that you guys have posted in your online submissions to this orientation. So one of the questions was asked is where to buy these tools, and it's not a magic P&O store in Toronto that I can send you to get all of your tools. Most of these items are things that you can get in your local hardware store, Canadian Tire, Home Depot. Lee Valley's a little bit steeper, but there's some really nice tools that you can get from them. The two tools, and I think Kevin is still here, but he can add to this list if he wants to. But for me, if you're going to spend money on two items, it would be your taps and your drills. And specifically, 5/32 drill size would be a good one to buy a quality drill bit for, and maybe a couple extras. And same thing with the tap. And this tap, I think, is $5. It's not that expensive, but you can buy a cheap tap at Canadian Tire and you will break it, I guarantee, before you finish tapping one upright. So I've given you a link. You don't have to buy them here. I'm just telling you that this is a tap that I would purchase, and they'll last you for the term as long as you use it appropriately. And there are times in first year where you will be tapping metal, so it might be good to get that. So I thought I'd just put that up there for you. Yeah, Kevin, do you want to take the mic at all to talk about any tools at this point? You're mentioning Princess Auto. That's a great spot for metalworking type tools for sure. Okay, then.
Sure, Gord.
Okay, thanks.
So definitely agree with Gord. There's some key tools, and use the resource lists that Dan was talking about earlier to sort of look at what tools you need, what tools you may not need, and some of the price comparisons. But certainly investing in some good drill bits and good taps are key, and you'll spend more time trying to drill out a broken tap than you will running a good one through the metal. So that's a good reference to use, and I see that's back up on the screen here. So if you have any other questions about that as we go through the summer, feel free to send me an email or send Gordon an email as well, or Kyla for that matter, and we'll try to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Next slide, please. So a lot of the questions that people were submitting had to do with tools, so I just try to kind of compile them all together. So one was, when do we need our tools by? And I think the best answer would be you want to get most of them before September, but definitely all of them by the second week of classes. And why I say the second week of classes is the first 5 days in the lab are going to be spent doing orientations, which doesn't mean you're just watching, but you're not building projects for marks at that point. But I mentioned this already once earlier, your personal protective equipment, that is something I'd like to have you guys have for the first lab day for sure, so that you can watch us and participate in the activities that, if you look at the calendar, you'll see what we'll be doing. So in terms of steel toe boots, that's not mandatory. You're certainly able to wear that if you choose to, but we're not handling usually heavy sheets of metal, so it's not mandatory to have steel-toed boots, but closed toe boxes are for sure required. So that means no sandals, flip-flops, or keens. And finally, getting to the question about shared tools, we've had friends try to save on costs by combining shared tools, for example, like specialty P&O type tools, and it can work. I think a husband and wife would be probably the best case scenario, but if it's locked in somebody else's toolbox and you need it, it's going to be, again, a time loss, right? And your management of time and work skills is going to be really part of what generates how good a quality product you will be able to generate. So if you're losing time trying to get to a tool, then that's time lost from actually working on your devices. So the good news is you can always go to the store and buy a second one if you need to. Same thing with the P&O specialty tools. I have enough in stock that you can decide at any time whether you want to purchase a specialty tool or not. And I don't talk about it too much in this orientation because I think that's easier to do once you guys are in the lab and have seen some of the actual demonstrations take place. You can make a much more informed decision as to whether you want to purchase a P&O specific tool or not. Okay, so I can move on. I had a lot of questions about accommodations, and I think your best bet would be to just talk amongst yourselves using the firstyear.technical email address to see if there's people that are like-minded in terms of wanting to try and share some living accommodations. The Student Association of the college does have a housing resource, but I'll forewarn you that it's geared heavily towards the St. James, the Casa Loma, and the waterfront campus. It won't be as useful to you trying to find accommodations near Sunnybrook, but the link's there, and maybe there's a few outlying places that are closer to Sunnybrook that might work out for you. Okay, and I had some questions about the textbooks. A number of you have purchased textbooks from me over the year as you were researching into the program, and some of them haven't changed significantly, so you can use them. I think math and anatomy are fairly stable, but other textbooks like lab procedures, fab theory, pathology, gait and biomechanics, these are all ones that are under revision between year and year, and they are worth repurchasing for sure. Okay, next slide. A couple questions were about days off, and I kind of mentioned that earlier when I went through the calendar, but for people that were joining us more recently, pretty much your Mondays and Wednesdays are completely off if you can get out of the COM 1007 course. But Wednesdays for sure. Other than your first week of class, I will never see you guys on a Wednesday, so that's a good opportunity for you for your doctor's appointments, for part-time work, and for student work that you're going to be doing at home. Someone asked me how intensive the first couple of weeks of classes will be, and your lab orientation takes the first 2.5 weeks or 5 lab days, so during that time you're not going to be building projects that will be evaluated, but we will be getting your hands dirty and sleeves rolled up and learning how to use the sewing machines, the laminating room, the machine room, and playing with some of the tools that you've purchased. But what does start up pretty quickly is your math and anatomy lectures. I'll be doing that the first, your second week of classes. Actually, no, I may even start some of the assignments in your first day on the Wednesday. English doesn't start up till the second week of class, so you do have a little bit of a slower start, but it ramps up fairly quickly. A couple people were asking about whether you needed a laptop for this program and if there was specific software that was needed. And I'd say about 90 to 95% of our students would have a laptop. Many of them choose to bring them to the classroom. And we have desktops in the student lounge that you have access to. But software, I mean, it depends on your budget. I mean, a lot of the basics are available to you on the Google platform, something Dan mentioned in his part of the orientation. Word, Excel, slides, or PowerPoint are all applications that you have access to with your gbcpndo.com account. So it depends on your budget. If you want to, you can have all this stuff on your laptops as well. And I've noticed just with the way phones and tablets are going that a lot of our students are living off of those devices as opposed to laptops. And you can get by. As I said, we have desktops in the student lounge. One person was asking about medical coverage, and I put some links here so that you can see how to get out of that coverage if you don't need it, or what it exactly covers. And the Student Association has a really good website, so there's a lot of information there for those of you that need to find out more about that. I see that Stephanie and Jonathan have posted something about Microsoft Office for students, so that's good to know. I didn't know that. Thank you. Next slide. A couple people are asking about where to get your ID, and I wanted to specify that this is GBC ID, right? You can have a Sunnybrook ID that you have to go in person to at Sunnybrook campus, which I'll be doing with you once you come to school, unless you try to get parking ahead of time. But your student card or GBC photo ID is something that you can do completely online, so you don't need to go down there in person, and there's a link for that. Next slide, please. Okay, this is an important slide. I'm sure if you've been checking your georgebrown.ca email, you're aware of this, and I know that all of you have made your non-refundable $500 deposit, so that's a good sign for me. It means that you guys are all serious about applying and getting into this program. And I'll just let you know, this is probably the first year that I have not gone down the wait list a single person. So the top 31 people were invited into this program, and all of those have accepted, made the $500 deposit. I've lost one student because he was waiting to get into another program, and he was able to get into that. So we're down to 30 students, but it's the first time ever that I have not used anyone in the wait list. So that means you guys are pretty keen, and it gets me excited because it's a lot more fun teaching a class of people that are, driven to be here. So that's a good sign. But just to get back to this tuition thing, it's really important that you don't drop the ball on meeting these deadlines for your balance of tuition. It's a major hassle if you don't meet these deadlines, and you can get kicked out of the program if you don't make them, and it's not easy for me to put you back into them. Okay, so I won't go into any more detail on that. The information's there for you to get back to it. Someone asked if TTC passes was included as part of your tuition, and that would be great, but no, that's not the case. You can get TTC passes through the Student Association with your GBC photo ID, and you can also get them at the same rate using your Sunnybrook ID at the Sunnybrook campus through the hospital. Next slide. You may have received email or hard mail talking about the Dean's Welcome. This takes place on Tuesday, September the 1st at the Waterfront campus, and it's for health sciences that takes place between 10:30 and 12. And if you're new to Toronto, if you're new to a college and you want to kind of get a bigger picture of, what college life is like, then I'd strongly recommend that you attend this session. If, however, you're not new to Toronto and public transit or driving through Toronto, it doesn't really thrill you, or you don't need to do group exercises of building a styrofoam cup structure for fun, then you don't have to go to that session. But you'll get an invitation to that, and that day in the afternoon is when I'll be holding my next orientation, and that'll be a face-to-face. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so that afternoon between 1 and 3 will be the orientation that will take place at Sunnybrook campus, and at that time I'll have all of our faculty there. I'm going to have our peer leaders. One of them's already confirmed that he'll be there, so I'm going to have them there so you can kind of see who your second year students that will be helping you in the lab and with math and anatomy are. I usually have them there with their tools so that you can see some of the items that they've had to purchase over the years to get you a chance to touch and feel these things. And usually by that point, you know, I know I've made this available to you in the past, but by that point you guys are a bit more attentive to actually tool purchases because you're in the process of doing it. So it'd be a good opportunity. Next slide. I just want to point out that there's a survey that I sent out to you, and just asking you for just a yes/no to let me know if you're planning on attending the Sunnybrook orientation or the Dean's Welcome at Waterfront Campus. I will say there's free pizza and a barbecue at the Dean's Welcome, but that takes place after the orientation, or the Dean's Welcome, sorry. Okay. I think that's it. I see Kevin's just left us. Great that he could join us. And I don't have that much more to add. I just wanted to kind of finish up with the next time that you'll see me and each other will be at that Tuesday, September the 1st orientation. So that's like a full week before school starts. This is not a mandatory. It is not your first day of lectures. It's just an opportunity for you guys to kind of come and see each other and see our faculty. It's a fairly informal get-together. I will go into some of the specialty tools that I've only mentioned during this orientation. We'll try and do a quick tour of the lab, and if there's time, we can get you down to the parking so you can already get your ID badge processed. And the real incentive for coming in on that Tuesday is that if you can bring in your tools and a chain to lock your toolbox up to the bench, you can claim a bench and you can claim a locker. And that's a first come first serve type basis. There's a loading dock that you can drive up to and kind of leave your toolbox there, and I can, as we get closer, I'll provide you with that information. Okay. So after that, the next time I'll see you will be after Labor Day, and that's your first day of official classes is Wednesday, September the 8th at 11 a.m. in UG 76. So that's where I expect everyone to kind of show up, and what I'll be going over on that day is handing out textbooks and course outlines and going over your first assignments. So I try to give you a kind of a price breakdown of what you can expect to pay for all of your textbooks for the first year. And I think they're good. Next slide. And I see a question from Beatrice, and I'll come back to that. For those that are enrolled in the master's program, your tuition is completely independent of George Brown's tuition. Obviously, you need to pay that admissions fees to McMaster, but there is a scholarship that's been generated that will cover a fairly good portion of your McMaster tuition for as long as you are a GBC student, but you need to apply for that. And I know that you're enrolling in this program, so either Dan or myself will email you information with regards to that. Okay. The last thing I wanted to kind of finish up on is scholarships for one, and just to reiterate that if you're going to find a place to live, you should do it close to Sunnybrook. And next time I'm going to see you in person is an optional orientation that takes place on Tuesday, September the 1st at Sunnybrook campus, where we did the interviews from 1 to 3 p.m. And there's a number of awards and scholarships that are exclusive to students of the P&O clinical and technical programs. And I've given you the link in an email for you to go about filling out your applications for those. It is a bit of a time commitment to fill out this application, but it's structured fairly well so that you need to only apply once, and then for whatever scholarships you qualify for, you'll automatically be entered into them. So I know you guys are all struggling for funds, but it surprises me every year actually how few people actually take the time to fill out these scholarships. So I put it here so that you can see it, and I hope you take advantage of it. And I think that's it for me. I just see there's a few questions that have been chatted about. I want to make sure I don't need to address any of them. There's some good talks. So yeah, BusyBee is great. That's a cheaper store to get some good quality tools from, and it's worth checking out that store as well. I just want to give people a chance to either grab the mic or chat on the text box, see if there's anything else that people want to add. I'd extend that to faculty that's still around, Amy or Dan. If there's anything that you'd like to add, I can give my voice a rest. Okay, then as I said, this session's been recorded. I'll make sure to get that link out to you. Before I sign off for the evening, I will share that PowerPoint presentation with you in your Google Drive. So once you log into your gbcpndo.com account, you'll be able to get access to this PowerPoint and all the links that are embedded into it. And again, I'm really impressed with the amount of turnout that we had for this online orientation session. Sometimes in the middle of the summer, it's hard to kind of put yourself into the student mode, but I appreciate that you took the time to do that. It shows a lot of commitment, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you all in September. If you do have questions or issues, feel free to email Kevin and Carla, volunteered themselves, certainly myself as well, if you have any questions. If you're struggling with exemptions or anything to do with admissions and you're not getting anywhere, then please copy me personally in those emails, and I can help try and push them along if you're not seeming to get anywhere. Okay, so I think we will retire for the evening. Thank you very much once again, and I'll see you guys later. I can leave the chat box open for a little bit if people are talking about carpooling and residences. That's fine. Have a good evening, all of you.